begin to talk about a game like Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto 4? I mean, to me, the game has aged better than any other open world competitor. Sure, there's probably some nostalgia bias there, as it is my favourite entrance in the franchise, but it is hard to deny the wide appeal the game has had since its release in 2008, to the cult following it still has to this day. As GTA 4 is a game so rich with content and aspects to unpack and critique, I've decided the focus of this brief reflection will be on what I think separates 4 from all other games in the series. So, spoilers ahead as we look back on the tragic narrative of Grand Theft Auto 4.
War is where the young and stupid are tricked by the old and bitter into killing each other.
GTA 4 gives us characters and a world with a level of depth previously unseen in gaming. I believe that quote from Hillary Goldstein of IGN perfectly sums up Grand Theft Auto 4. As alluded to in the title of this video, GTA 4's story is one of a nihilistic tragedy. Our protagonist is Niko Bellic, who, to briefly cover his backstory as it will prove essential throughout this video, is a Serbian ex-soldier who's driven by a motivation for revenge and closure following a betrayal of his unit in the Bosnian Wars 12 years prior to the game's setting of 2008.
When the war came, I did bad things. And after the war, I thought nothing of doing bad things. I killed people, smuggled people, sold people.
Following a life of crime post-war in Europe, Niko makes powerful enemies who cause him to flee and find respite in Liberty City, the game's fictional take on New York, where his cousin, Roman, has moved to pursue the American dream of success and fortune. In my opinion, the game is definitely at its greatest narrative-wise when the focus is on Niko and Roman's relationship and the costs Niko's dramatic lifestyle and choices have on the pair. Now, family bonds are nothing new to Rockstar games. Take CJ and his loyalty to the Grove Street families in San Andreas, or even John and the Marston family in the Red Dead series, for example. However, I personally find the bond between the Bellic cousins to be the best written of the lot. The close bond of the two is best shown in the clear binary oppositions of the pair in almost every way. Roman is more materialistic, whereas sure, money does matter to Niko, but he doesn't exactly crave a life of luxury and desire expensive things. Niko becomes, essentially, a glorified gun for hire, whereas Roman maintains his role as the attempted legitimate businessman with Bellic Enterprises cab company. Roman is usually the comic relief of the pair, whereas Niko is more matter of fact and blunt.
There's no such thing as a new beginning, Roman. With every day we live, we pick up new baggage. Baggage that we must carry with us for the rest of our lives. There's no dropping it and pretending we are fresh and clean just because we get off a boat in a new place.
Stop being so dramatic, Niko. Time is a healer. We live and we forget the past.
Looking at the juxtaposition of these factors alone, it could be read by some that he is just a sometimes irritating comedic sidekick to Niko, who is unable to hold his own in combat and gets the two into dangerous situations time and time again. But to me, it's clear that his character is far deeper than this. He sees the effects that the war has had on his cousin's mental state and tries to convert him into his optimistic, dreamful way of thinking. He encourages a new start for this broken man. This, I believe, is a real testament to Roman's character, as Roman's life has also suffered since the arrival of Niko, such as being kidnapped, beaten, and shot, to name a few. Furthermore, Niko's main antagonist he develops during his time in Liberty City, Dmitry Raskolov, befriends one of Niko's old enemies from his time in Europe, Ray Bulgarin, and betrays Niko, burning down Roman's business and flat in the process. Despite their contrasting morals and the beatings Roman has received on behalf of Niko, Roman always manages to remain optimistic and never holds resentment to his cousin, whereas many others would. In other words, the bond between the two has a remarkable presence throughout the game, from the moment Niko arrives in Liberty City to the campaign's bitter end. The grounded early level missions of the first couple acts, Niko being a small fish in a big pond, allow for some amazing character building and narrative backstory of this mysterious protagonist we've just met. Niko, in need of money, is helping his cousin with his taxi cab business. However, he is soon forced to enter the crime underworld in the city, as Roman has made some unwise financial decisions, leaving him in debt to bad people, meaning it's no time at all until Niko slips back into his aggressive, wartime ways. On various occasions throughout the game, you're forced to kill, steal, drug smuggle, and even kidnap. You name a crime, Niko's probably committed it during his time in Liberty City. Niko's become desensitized to these atrocities due to his trauma from the war, causing him to commit more and more crimes and work his way up the criminal enterprise. He justifies this to himself, as he claims he does so to financially support Roman. However, it becomes clear later in the game that this simply isn't the case. But what is it then that motivates this broken man to continue dealing with the vermin of Liberty City? It's this which leads up to what I believe is the narrative turning point in the story, as Niko begins his path of emotional redemption. Following Nico killing Vlad, the psychotic Russian mob member that torments Roman from the early game, Nico reveals to Roman his true reason for arriving in Liberty City.
When I was in the army, we were going on a mission. There were 15 of us, all boys from the village. But one of us betrayed the group. It was a setup. For money. 12 people died. 3 escaped. I know the traitor was not me. So for 10 years, I've been searching for the other 2. One of them lives here.
Nico finds one of the 2 ex-soldiers he's looking for in Florian Kravich, a man who, under the new alias of Bernie Crane, is almost unrecognisable to Nico and Roman. It quickly becomes clear to Nico that Florian obviously wasn't the traitor from back in his days in the war, leaving him with only one possible suspect, Darko Brevich. Utilising the powerful connections he has acquired during his time in the Big Apple, such as IAA agent ULP, Nico is able to find the man who betrayed him and all his friends a decade or so prior. What follows is, I believe, a beautiful showcase of Rockstar's writing, as all of Nico's motivations and actions have led him to this point. He's finally, after years of searching, about to come face to face with the man who broke him and caused him such suffering and pain. Again, to Roman's testament, he notices this in his cousin. He sees his rage and hopes his cousin can move on and begin his path to closure.
What am I good at, Roman? What is my trade? I deal in debt. Because that is all that is open to me.
I will tell you what you are good at, Nico. You are a good cousin and a good friend. You still have integrity. No matter what you say, there is humanity in you. You still have the power to be good. It's important that you believe that.
Upon arrival, Nico is presented with a choice. Kill the man responsible for his trauma and who traded in his friends' lives for $1,000, or realise the hypocrisy of his actions, and conclude there's more suffering in living for Darko. Obviously, as the element of choice is here, you're to decide what option best suits the narrative, but I believe the canonical ending is the choice to let Darko live, as not only does he point out that Nico and Darko's actions aren't dissimilar, as during the course of the game, Nico is killed and betrayed for less than the price Darko charged, but I also believe that this rush of emotion for Nico has caused him to reflect on his motives as a character. He is a man consumed by revenge, and in the moment the opportunity for it is presented to him, Nico realises that a life of repentment is a better suited sentence than death.
You killed my friends for $1,000.
How much do you charge to kill someone?
You ruined me, you fuck!
Kill me, Dan! You fucking hypocrite. Trust me. You're doing me a favor. Ah!
Nico, come on. Let's go. Let him suffer. He knows what he did. It doesn't look like he enjoys life too much. Come on.
Sure, this isn't the end of GTA 4's narrative, I'll touch more on that in a moment, but it's at this point I believe Rockstar brings a fantastic conclusion to the narrative thread that motivated Nico from the beginning, bringing closure for Nico and ultimately changing him as a character, as he leaves behind his desire for revenge, a change which, unfortunately, leads him to losing someone he, and the audience, cares for most. As I've covered so far, player choice plays a strong role at equilibrium-altering moments in the game, and the final act is no exception to this. After all that has led you to this point, you're presented with the most important choice at the conclusion of the game. Work again with Dmitri, a man who has caused harm to Nico and mainly Roman countless times throughout the game, or seek revenge and kill the man who tortured your cousin and burn down his home and business. You're given advice by the 2 most important to you. Kate, your then girlfriend at the time, advises you not to sell yourself out for money.
You shouldn't work with him, Nico. You don't need money. What is it going to change about your life?
I don't know. It'll make things easier. For me and for Roman.
I'm not going to respect you if you compromise what you believe in for money, Nico. Goodbye.
However, Roman, again motivated by his desire for money and pursuit of the American dream of success and fortune, is quick to forget his suffering and encourages Nico to work with Dmitri.
You're doing this deal, right?
Now that I know where Dmitri is, I might just go there and take him out instead. Have you forgotten that he burned down your apartment and business? That he arranged your kidnapping?
Now I have a better apartment, and I'll have an even better one if you work with him again!
Again, the choice is ultimately up to the player, but I believe Nico chooses to work with Dimitri. As shown by him sparing Darko, Nico no longer has this lust for revenge and is willing to turn the other cheek, and due to his care for Roman, he pursues the choice that would benefit them both. It's this decision to forgive, to ultimately put aside his own beliefs and be selfless and prove how much he's changed as a character, that consequently leads to the greatest loss Nico's had to suffer thus far.
Yes?
A gift from Dmitri Raskolov.
As I said at the start of this reflection, GTA 4's story is that of a tragedy, and I believe that's represented no better than in this moment. All the progression Nico has made as a character, he's abandoned his desire for revenge for what was perhaps one of the hardest decisions he's ever had to make, just for it to cost him so dearly, and lose the man that has been his crutch throughout the entire campaign, leading Nico to once again blame himself as his decision caused the death of his cousin. All the game's themes, revenge, family, betrayal, and most prominently, the nihilistic, inevitable failure of the American dream drags Nico back to what he was when the game began, a morally broken man. Yet this time, the cycle of failure has left him painfully and inevitably alone. As I'm sure you've gathered by this point, I love Grand Theft Auto 4's story. Although the much darker and realistic tone and mature themes are perhaps overshadowed by the financial success of the game's brighter and more upbeat successor, GTA 5, I believe 4 is the game in the series where Rockstar's amazing character writing and storytelling are best displayed. Do I think the narrative is perfect? No, not at all. There is definitely times where the narrative perhaps feels rushed, such as, for example, the quick turn in the relationship between ex-gangster Dwayne and his prodigy playboy. Plus there's also a good portion of the story which omits the family dynamic between Roman and Nico in favour of displaying Nico's escapades with the Mafia, which, although they offer some of the most memorable moments of gameplay, don't contribute towards what I believe is the strongest element of the story, the Bellic cousins and Nico's moral redemption and closure. But these minor criticisms aren't what I recall when reflecting back on GTA 4, and it's because of this that I believe it excels not just as a shoot-'em-up open-world game, but a well-developed, fleshed-out, beautifully written and presented story. The tragedy of longing for revenge and ultimately moving past it for moral redemption, just for that change to lead to a sacrifice greater than any other, has always hit so strong to me and is a true testament of Rockstar's amazing writing and presentation, leading Grand Theft Auto 4 to be, to me, an outstanding example of modern storytelling, which seems to be only looked upon more fondly with time.